Balaura again on the podcast, episode 2. As you already know, we have Marius here from Norway and me from Romania. We are working on a very interesting project which is based on the stories of women who have been through violence in their lives, and we collect all these stories, and based on this it will be a show soon on February 22nd at Atheneum. We'll have the occasion to talk a little bit more about that. But first, before going into deep, I just want you to show, me and Marius will want you to show a little extract of his stories to know the impact it has on our hearts and why we are doing this. So this is a real story wrote by a woman who worked with us. If someone had told me this story, I would have had a hard time believing it, honestly. Here it was: attacks, screams, abuse, broken phones, until one evening when I felt fear in my bones. I felt that a crazy fight was going to happen. In general, I was not allowed to leave the house with the child. Only I was allowed to live alone. He considered that the mother was the most capable person to raise the child. Terrified by his threats, I called 112 and requested to be evacuated, and so I ended up in a village far from the city to live temporarily with a protection order with my brother. Fights of unimaginable psychological burden followed. The parasite, who called himself Daddy because he also bought a pack of wet wipes for the child, and for that he requested half of my allowance from me, gravitated around me with apologies and oaths or insults and death threats. I give you my word, I was afraid, and I believe he is capable of murder even now. I found out about the Gloria project, where I called with some fear. I had a number on a piece of paper left by the maternal assistant in my brother's village. I was afraid of being manipulated, tricked, that someone would take my child. But I also desperately needed help. I needed someone who understood the language I was speaking, not to tell me that I was exaggerating and that I was too sensitive. I needed confirmation that I was not a slut who was harming the child by taking him and running away from his father who was torturing us. And I found it. Praise the Lord. I found it. I found support for my soul and legal support, and even a bed to sleep in was for us. So that was a fragment of the stories Cox want also to learn.
Yes.
Yeah. So Marius, what do you say?
I said today we saw the first rehearsals where because the material is responded to like from two different angles or two different art groups. One of actors and the director and like grown-up artists coming in from the theater angle, who also have participated in some of the workshops. And then there is from the choreography angle a lot of young dancers, and now we saw on the stage for the first time like how do these two merge, and we also saw for the first time like how is the reaction. It is very bodily. The material has a lot of body in it, but it was strong to see the. It has to do with both like fragility, but also the growing strength. So it was good to see it materialize. And then we had, of course, a lot of discussions. How can we make the essence of the material and the true stories be maintained in the artistic expression, and then find the balance. Because when how to find the balance when you work with documentary stories, to respect the essence of the stories, or to lift it, affect the audience.
I think also for the audiences to know more about the show, which is called Emotional Treasure Box, What Happened to the Heart. And for those of you who are here because of Aurora, you need to know that we use her music from her latest album in our show.
And also as a general inspiration.
Yeah.
For the whole
For the whole show, yeah. And it's not only because it's a bilateral Norwegian-Romanian project, but because also the message, the essence of her vision around violence and around how we can transform this vulnerability into our inner power and strength. I think that's something we want to convey to the audiences. So maybe we should learn a little bit more about from another story.
From
you
another
think?
Story. Yeah, I can read some.
It's quite
excerpts.
a powerful stuff. Yeah, yeah.
So I will jump a bit because it's different parts. But this was what affected me was this. The woman tells how she has to kind of brutally also face the violence from the system, from not only from the partner, but also there's a structural violence, not intentional maybe, but it's still. I knew that he was determined in what he had set out to do. It was the first time I knew that I had no escape, and I called an association I found on the internet to take refuge there, and they told me that they could not accept me until I had a forensic certificate attesting to the violence. I still had marks from when he broke the mop handle off me because I started mopping the floor without asking his permission. But there were not enough marks to really show how dangerous he had become. I was advised to wait for him to come and then call 112. I had tried to call in the past and ended up with my head stuck in the door to apologize in the call. That was a mistake. I knew he could easily annihilate me. He had a gun in the house and an impressive collection of various knives. I cried, prayed desperately to God, and accepted that he could kill me or make me incapable of raising the children. I waited for him to come home in the middle of the night. He arrived, trying to enter noisily. I immediately went to open the door. In the first second I tried to kiss him, and he hit me hard across the face with his palm. My ears were ringing from the impact, and yet I didn't make a sound or make any gesture of resistance. I took his slippers and put them back on, humble, hoping that he would calm down after his angry outburst. He grabbed me by the neck and slammed my head against the hallway mirror, explaining that if it broke, the shards would serve as knives for my throat. I'm gonna jump a little. Because the fire wasn't burning well, he got angry. And he started screaming at me, and when I bent down to stoke the fire, he threw gasoline on it, and the flame engulfed my hair. Frightened, I started screaming and ran to the well, but he caught me and bit me on the mouth until I bled. There followed volleys of slaps and punches that continued forcibly inside the house, behind the backs of neighbors or other possible spectators. I felt like the cup was full and I couldn't take it anymore. I asked to live together and not destroy our lives together, but his answer was that we could only be separated by death. I felt that it was not a threat said on nerves, but it was as serious as possible. His eyes were bulging, the veins seemed to be about to burst on his face and neck. He was grinding his teeth, and I understood that the only way was to quickly comply and get out the door with whatever I could get my hands on as quickly as possible. That's how I decided to start my journey to freedom with no way back. I walked with my heart boiling with joy through the 17-degree winter frost with 2 babies with whom I didn't know where I would sleep, but I knew that God would not abandon me. I went straight to the Institute of Forensic Medicine. I still had ash in my hair and blood on my teeth, and from there I received guidance and help.
Well, we didn't plan to tell terrifying stories to the audiences. Unfortunately, these stories are the daily lives of the women our organization is working on a daily basis. And in a way, we didn't make this show in a manner in which to push people away of this. We just want to give to these feelings, which are very, very powerful, to this fear, to give a light of hope. And in a way, these women were very powerful and were able to tell their stories, because you need a certain strength to arrive in a place in which you can look back and tell these stories. And that's the reason we wanted to do this show, showing the road towards liberation, and the fact that they are not alone in this, and that every woman in the room, every woman who is coming to this show and is going through this ordeal can escape, even if it's very difficult. And we wanted people to know how difficult for them it is to escape and to be free.
And like the real possibility of transformation is because the end of this story also where she starts helping herself after receiving help. Over time, the emotions I felt about the danger I was in proved to be very real when he tried to take my life in front of the children. The fact that I'm alive is a miracle that makes me fight more for victims of domestic violence. I managed to be free to think, choose, spend, walk, play, live. Together, we are a force, and anything is possible for those who truly believe that it can be better.
And I think that is the way we try to move from the rational way of dealing with things, because we are mostly working with the social work. We are working with these women into supporting them through their journey. But we felt that telling the story of their emotions and the stories of transformation, and that the art and music and dance can have this healing effects on our souls. I think it's a different approach from before, for us at least as organization, and that's the reason we hope many of you will come in Yash to see us. And for those of you who are not able to see us, we will record everything, and so you will see it online on What Happened to the Heart website, and also you will be able to see some of the dances of these wonderful girls. And that's the poster of our show.
Yeah.
It has a heart, because we are talking about what happened to the heart, and the story of dance and music and transformation, and maybe the message that we don't need to repeat the violence cycle, trying to break the cycle.
Yeah, and that has also to do with like the transformation over generation spans, which the girls contributing as dancers brings in like the hope that the next generation might face less violence or deal with dignity in a better way.
For those of you who will have the patience to see our future podcast serial, you will also be able to see the recording of the show and the recording of the dances of these girls. And so probably hearing also Aurora music, it will be much easier for you to understand the transformation and emotions we all feeling. And probably to the journey I'll have less emotions. I will not cry during the rehearsals like I did today. So I hope you will be with us in the future, and we will come back to tell you more stories about this. And we hope you have the joy, you will share the joy we have at going through this together. So thank you, Marius, for being here with us, and see you soon on the next podcast episode. Thank you.